Good afternoon from Germany, and it's already Friday, second week of February, with almost no news this week, no major news, but some good movements. And we will have consumer sentiment today, a two-star event half an hour after the market is open. So let's just prepare for market open in about 5 minutes. Where are we right now? We had highs pre-market here of 12,446 points. We had lows here pre-market of 12,270, and we try to go higher right now at 12,338 points for Nasdaq future. Let's see this on a day chart, and there we see, just get rid of all these lines here. There we see we went down from this sideways trading phase, are trading below 9 EMA at the moment. Parabolic SAR went to the upside, indicating an early downtrend, but ADX is still in a long trend and a strong long trend, so it's just normal to see some pullbacks, maybe to see support here at the 20 EMA level. But for now it's a little bit more bearish than bullish, but still higher lows and higher highs. Let's wait for a bottom to be found here, and let's see if this week is closing red or green. So for now we have lower lows than on Tuesday and Monday, and lower lows than yesterday. Yesterday we closed right at the 9 EMA support level, but we went lower pre-market. So news in half an hour. Let's see the economic news here. It's consumer sentiment and consumer expectations. A two-star event. I don't think that we will see major movement, but like always, it can act as a catalyst, and if the market wants to turn and some dip buyers want to buy in, then we will probably see this in about half an hour at the latest. More important will be next week, because next week Tuesday we will have CPI and inflation data. So this one will be really important. Next Tuesday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. Mark this one in your calendar, because there we will see a lot of movement. We have already seen big moves yesterday in Nasdaq. So if I look on a 5-minute chart here and go back to yesterday, then we see that we had a strong downtrend here. You see lower highs, lower lows. It was a clean downtrend. Only a few times we tried to push above the 20 EMA level here on a 5-minute time frame, but it went down until the closing here. And just before the closing, about half an hour before the closing, we tried to push higher again. It's really interesting to see, because I think without any major news yesterday, besides initial jobless claims, there was no reason for this downturn here of 2.8%. It's really heavy downturn for a day without any major news. But because a lot of 0 DTE options are traded right now, I think this caused this catalyst reaction. Because the more the stock market drops, the more the market makers have to sell stocks or go short on a future to hedge their option position. And therefore this pushes the market down, as we see, like here in a downward spiral. And right before the closing, some of these 0 DTE traders close their positions. And therefore the market makers have to hedge again. So they close their shorted stock positions or their shorted future positions, and this makes the market turn to the upside. We had the same pattern on Tuesday. We already talked about this last Wednesday in my live stream. And this can happen several times on a day when we see catalysts. Like today, the news can turn the market, and then we will see this spiral working again to the upside or to the downside. And I think this will cause more volatility within the next weeks and months, until there will be a big blow up of all these retail traders trying to trade 0 DTE. It is really not easy to trade. Of course, everyone is saying you can make a lot of money by buying these 0 DTE calls and puts, but the problem is that a lot of retail traders don't have the experience. They don't know what to do when this or that happens, and sometimes markets can turn really quick, as we have seen last Tuesday, and therefore it is always difficult for them to trade and to cut losses especially. And because the volume is growing and growing in these 0 DTE calls and puts, we will probably see more volatility within the next weeks and months, as long as there's no blow up of these retail traders who try to make a fortune in 0 DTE options. So market is open, some dip buyers stepping in, making higher highs right now. So as you can see, we went above the 20 and 9 EMA level. We are making higher highs already pre-market. Here about 1.5 hours before the market opened, you could see this was the first push here for making higher highs. Then we went to VWAP here. Now we are pushing strong above VWAP. Next resistance level on the upside is probably the pre-market high here of 12,446 points. So there is some room to the upside. And yeah, these low points here from pre-market, this was when the European session began. This was the ending of the Asian session. There we had some lows at 12,400 points. So this could be an interesting area today. And if we manage to break above 12,460, this was a low point where I closed my shorts yesterday a little bit early, but I had German live stream and therefore I wasn't able to see what will happen with the market. And because we were already down a lot yesterday in Nasdaq, I just closed my shorts and went later a little bit too early. I went long here at the 12,420 points right here, but it's just a small position of 2 micro Nasdaq future contracts. So yeah, if the market is rising this fast, I will probably be break even in a few minutes. But yeah, the market can turn. So we have to take into account that the market is still bullish on a higher time frame, but that we will try to retest our previous support levels here. So the previous high points and the 20 EMA level are support areas. And yeah, always have in mind that we already turned to a downtrend in parabolic SAR, but it's a long uptrend. Since January 6th, which was the day with a low here, we turned to this uptrend, and therefore it's just normal that we will see a change of direction, an early change of direction. Doesn't have to say a lot, but always be prepared to close your position if you see that the market is not going into your direction. So, questions from you says, what are your thoughts on American Airlines? I shorted it yesterday, but tempted to short more next week. So, okay, let's see American Airlines. American Airlines, just bring up this chart here. And then we will look into the other stocks and commodities. So American Airlines is just sideways trading. It went down yesterday, yes, but it's still sideways trading. So it's not really interesting for me to be engaged in a position right now, because you clearly see this sideways trading phase here. It's not really interesting before we push below these previous lows here we had at about $15.90. And when we push below these $15.90, then it can be more interesting, because yeah, then we will probably close this open gap here. You see there's a bigger open gap, and this one could be closed. So there could be a push of 50, 60, maybe 70 cents to the downside to close this open gap when we go below this area. But for now, it's just sideways trading. It's not really interesting to trade it, in my opinion. So we see we made higher highs here. So it's still in an uptrend, but consolidating, sideways trading, and now taking time to decide if it wants to go lower or higher. And it's a big range here of more than $1.50, and therefore I would just wait for a clear breakout and to see market direction for American Airlines. Next questions. Carlos, do you see that happening again today? I was reading somewhere earlier that market makers were going to have to sell a lot today at lower prices, which might cause increased volatility today. Yeah, it could happen every day. Why? Because now you can trade a SPY, not only SPX, but also SPY and other ETFs as 0 DTEs. Therefore, a lot of retail traders are able to trade with low margin accounts. So it can happen every day, but on Friday especially, it can happen more often. Why? Because we have the weekly expiries of all the single stock options, and therefore there's more to hedge for the market makers. So when we see a beginning spiral to the up or downside, there will probably be more volume for the market makers, especially on the third Friday of a month. So next week, Friday, there will be even more to hedge. Why? Because this is a normal monthly expiry. So Today is just a weekly expiry for the stock options, but next week Friday is the third Friday of a month, and therefore will be a monthly expiry. There is more volume to hedge for the market makers, and therefore this will be more important, especially next month in March, the third Friday. Why? Because this is a quarterly expiry and there will be even more volume. So this is why it's called a triple witching day, because all the index and stock options and future options are expiring, and therefore there's a hell of a lot of volume happening on this day. And together, combined with these 0DTE options, there can be a lot of hedging volume for market makers. So we have to be prepared. It can turn in every direction every day with these 0DTE. Just have in mind that every trend, how far it is gone, if it's oversold, if it's overbought, no matter what, it can stay on this trend as long as the spiral is moving. Why? Because market makers will have to buy or will have to sell as long as there is something to hedge. And yeah, just keep this in mind. So don't look too much at the RSI or other indicators showing overbought and oversold situations, because it can turn heavy, and yeah, we have to take this into account. Okay, so let's move on with the stocks. Tesla was pushing higher yesterday above the 200 area already on Wednesday, but yesterday we went to highs of $214. Then we pushed back and almost closed at the opening price, a little bit lower, but still had a green day yesterday because we closed higher than the closing on Wednesday. Today we went to back to the 200 area. This is what I was expecting, to retest the 200, because this was previous resistance. Now it acts as a support. But if we go on a weekly time frame, we will see. So now we are still trading above this 200, this important resistance area. It was previous support, then it went as a resistance, so now it should act as a resistance. It was already last week when we had a highs of $199, and this week we pushed above, so now it acts as a support. And if we close this week, so today this week ends, and if we close above 200 area, then there's more room to the upside here, minimum to $230. You see, this was a previous high point, therefore there's more room to this level. And you see Fibonacci extension here, 161.8% area is the 260 level, so there's even more room to the upside. It's not fundamental, it's just technical analysis. But if we close below the 200, then we can probably see a pullback here to the 160, 150 area, which would be healthy in my opinion, because yeah, this is not really healthy to move 100% as the 6th largest stock of Nasdaq. So this is a heavy weighting here of a stock in Nasdaq, and this moving 100% in 1 month, it's just not really healthy. But let's see what will happen with the Tesla. It's a strong stock right now, as weak as it was last year. The ending of last year, it was really weak. As you can see, from September to December it went down really heavy, about 68%. So now it's acting strong. And yeah, I'm curious how this week will end, if we will stay above 200 or below 200. Everything is possible here for Tesla. So I have still a position here on Tesla and in the option market, because you see the implied volatility was rising in the previous days because of these huge pushes to the upside. There was a fear of the short sellers that we will go through. A lot of short squeeze here. Therefore there was a high demand for calls, and I use these high demand for calls to sell bear call spread. Yes, of course it is risky because it is against the main trend here, but I can make money just by the stock trading sideways. It doesn't have to go below 200. As long as it stays below 250 and it's just moving sideways, or implied volatility is going lower, I can still make money. And that's the interesting thing, multi-dimensional trading with options. So I'm watching Tesla, and yeah, we will see if we will go higher than 214. Then probably this is a good catalyst for higher prices next week. But if we close below 200, then this is considered to be bearish. Let's see what will happen today. What else do we have? Let's move on with our orange juice. It's really interesting. Why? Because we have really had a giant short squeeze, not 100% like with Tesla, but this was 30% in just a few days, just two weeks, and we went up 30% in orange juice. Today is the first day indicating a red candle here, minus 3.8%. I think we went to the limit down, so limit down. So orange juice has trading limits because here we have only 10 cents trading range per day. Yesterday we went to the limit up, then went down again, and today you see at the opening we already went lower and are now trading at the limit down. So the closing yesterday was at 261, therefore the limit down is at 251, and therefore we cannot trade lower today. So let's see what will happen on Monday, but I think that we will see the same rally to the downside again. So we had almost every day limit ups, and now we probably will see the next days and weeks limit downs, and to see a rally back to the breakout area here at 205. It's not a really liquid future market, especially not a liquid option market, but it's interesting to see these trends in these markets. So let's move on with Euro USD. Euro USD is trying to push lower. I thought that it will push higher here because of this doji candle. Then yesterday we made higher highs, but went back for the closing. And yeah, it's still not, the decision is not made yet if we will go lower here, below the previous low, or higher. But yeah, probably it will go lower when the market will go lower, and higher if the market can turn green again. And we have gold. Gold futures, you see, we made a little bit back here from this downturn, but are now pushing lower. We made new lows, so it's bearish, and the next supporting area should be here at the 1,845 and 1,850. This one should be the next target, so more room to the upside, about 1.5% downside potential here for gold, and especially with the risk of higher interest rates. So the fear is still there that we will have higher inflation because of the strong job market, and this causes the higher expectations here for next Federal Reserve meetings in about 40 days. And you can now see that we had a big shift from last week. Now the expectancies for the next Federal Reserve meetings are 94% that we will move the 25 basis points moved up to 5%, and even 6% that we will see 50 basis points move to 5.25%. So this is crazy, because if you look back last week, we had the 0% expectancy for 50 basis points, but about 3% expectancy for no move at all. So this is a big shift that we see here. And yeah, let's see how this turns out. But we already had a big shift here in the probabilities for the whole year and year's end, because now the high point is expected to be at 5.25% within the next two meetings, and then it will stay there until year's end. And Jerome Powell was always talking about not setting interest rate levels lower this year, but the market is still expecting to have lower interest rates, but not as low as we had the expectancies 2 and 3 weeks ago. So there we had the expectancy that we will see two times lower interest rates in November and December, but now the expectancy is only one time lower and a higher interest rate level, so 5% instead of 4.5%, which was the previous expectancy 3 weeks ago. So, and therefore, because we have now higher interest rate expectancies, gold is turning down, because you have higher costs holding gold. This is opportunity cost, because gold is not earning dividends or interest payments, and therefore gold price has to turn down. But when there's again a shift in the expectancies, so if, for example, we will see a worse than expected economy, so worse data from economy, then this will lower the risk of higher interest rates. Why? Because there is less risk or less fear of higher inflation, and therefore gold can turn higher again if the expectancies of the interest rates will come down again. But I'm not seeing this right now, because job market is still strong, and therefore we will have to wait for the next economic news in the next weeks. So, what else do you want to see? US dollar Japanese yen is interesting because we went outside of this downtrend here. So, US dollar is getting stronger again. Japanese yen is weakening. Why? Because we had a change in the board of Bank of Japan, the Japanese central bank. And yeah, like always, they are really surprising with their news. And you see the previous 2.5 weeks we went higher now. Let's see if this was the retest of the downtrend, and we will now see higher trends in the next weeks. So this was what I was expecting, but I was a little bit early as always. When we had a retest here of the previous lows, I was expecting to make a second shoulder so that we have a shoulder head shoulder formation, but maybe it's just a late shoulder here. So with a lower low, sometimes this happens, but there's still some room to go back to the 138 level. So still some room here to the upside of about 5% to form this second shoulder in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And what else does this say? When the Japanese yen is getting weaker, then there is more possibility to have these carry trades. So a lot of carry traders want to borrow money in cheap Japanese yen, then transfer it to the US dollar, and then earn interest payments, high interest payments, or just put it in the stock market and then have rising stock prices. So this is a good thing for the market to have higher levels, because when the Japanese yen is getting weaker, then this causes no problems for all these carry traders. But when the Japanese yen is getting stronger, so turning again to the downside, then this causes problems for these carry traders, because their debt in Japanese yen is now higher in US dollar, so they have to pay more US dollar to pay off their debt. And this will cause problems for the market as well. Therefore, keep this in mind and have a look at US dollar Japanese yen exchange rate. Let's move on with Google, because Google is interesting in terms of AI. Where's my Google chart? I've not opened it anymore. So let's just see Google. Google here. Google, like Microsoft, Nvidia, and all the other stocks, went higher in the previous days with expectancies for a big push for artificial intelligence, AI, with ChatGPT and the other stocks. So we, in my last live stream Wednesday, we talked about these open gaps here. There are not so many in the Google stock, but more in Microsoft. So let's just bring up Microsoft here. Where's my Microsoft stock? Did I close this chart as well? No, here it is. Too many open charts. So we have a lot of open gaps, as you can see here. There's here, here's one. So there's more potential to the downside, back to the 250 area where we had the previous breakout level. And yeah, this is about 4.5% downside potential before we will probably see more support. And yeah, when the markets are turning down, then probably these big pushes from the last days will go backwards to the downside, and the same for Google. We had these giant news that Google will bring out its own AI for its search engine, and because Google has a market share of more than 90% in worldwide search volume, yeah, this was big news, because yeah, Microsoft could be able to dig some of this share. So to dig some of the market share from Google with the ChatGPT, because they financed ChatGPT and wanted to build in the Bing search engine. And yeah, this caused the stock to rally for Microsoft, but now Google announced they will fight back and will also bring out their BART, artificial intelligence. But the problem was that the video they brought on Twitter had a big issue, and the issue was, they said, the first planet outside of our solar system was found by a special satellite system, and this was just the wrong answer from the artificial intelligence. So the stock turned downwards about, what was this, 8% or more than 8% on this day. Yeah, it was 9% at the highest point. So it just went crazy on on Wednesday, and turned more red yesterday. So all these pushes to the upside were made backwards, so we closed the first gap here, and yeah, the second gap was here, so we closed this one yesterday. But we see that there's a lot of fear in this market right now, because stocks can turn heavy to the upside and go back right away because of these just small news that there was a mistake in an ad video. And yeah, this will be the case in the next weeks or months. I think that we will see more fear, even if we don't see this on VIX. So if you go to VIX, there's not a lot of fear. It is rising right now, as you can see. So yesterday we went above 20, and now today we went to 21.9 at the highest level. But you still see that we are at the low level. There is some more room to the upside, 24 and higher, still some room, and therefore, yeah, not really a big fear, but you see how fast the fear can rise. And the same thing with all artificial intelligence stocks right now. Yeah, let's go to back to the commodities with natural gas and crude oil. Let's begin with crude oil. So crude oil is still on the rise. We talked about this on Wednesday, where we had the previous big rise here, but still some room to go back into this resistance area between $82 and $83. So normally when the stock markets are turning down, then also crude oil is just going sideways or turning down. But this time it's completely different. Stock markets are going sideways and lower, but crude oil is rising here. And yeah, it's interesting to see what will happen here, but probably we will see a test again of the 82 area, and then probably there will be resistance again. But maybe we will see if we will go higher this time, because it's a first time, second time, third time, fourth time we will now go to this area, and then probably we'll see one time a push above if the markets can be still strong. So natural gas, it's just the opposite. With natural gas, it was still weak here. Let's go on a day chart first. So here on a day chart, you see that it's still weak. So it was turning down, and it's now trying to find its bottom here at the $2.40 area. We tried to push higher here above the 9 EMA level. So we went above 265 was the high, but then turned immediately back again. So from high to low, this was 10% move on one day, on Wednesday, and we are still below the 9 EMA level and below parabolic SIR. So I would wait for a break above. Maybe this will happen today and we manage to close above this parabolic SAR dot right here at the 250 area, and then this could be a potential sign for next week for a breakout to the upside. So maybe we will manage to go back to the $3 area here, or 290. Let's see, this will be an important next target if we see the breakout here. I would prepare for this, but I would wait for more confirmation, because we are still in a sideways trading phase right now. Okay, back to the market. Still 7 minutes until we see the news. Where is Nasdaq right now? Just sideways trading, so we didn't miss a lot. But you see where the important resistance area is. We went just lower here at the 12,400 point area, and we're still waiting for the news. No big news, but maybe it can act as a catalyst to find its direction, because for now it's just not in a clear direction. Do you see the consumer sentiment will have any impact? Yeah, of course, Carlos, it will have some impact, but no big impact. Why? Because it's only a 2-star event. So bigger impact will have CPI, so consumer price index, will be more important next week than the consumer sentiment and consumer expectations today, because these are only 2-star events. Yeah, what are the forecasts are 62.9, so almost the same like previous one, and 65, also almost the same like previous one. Let's see how they come out in about 5 minutes. So do you have other stocks or commodities you want to be analyzed? Then just write them down in the chat, and I can bring them up and talk about them. Maybe see Meta, because it's also interesting in terms of AI with the metaverse. So let's see this. We had a big push on the earnings here, and we went to to the Fibonacci extension. As you can see, this was a 161.8% Fibonacci extension from this breakout from the previous high point here. And you see the stock was struggling right there. We just pushed higher a little bit, but closed lower. So this is a big resistance, as you can see. And the interesting thing is you could see this before the earnings. So this was a previous high point, and this was just a Fibonacci extension. So this was a potential target for an outbreak, and we reached this target. This is 61.8% higher than the whole movement we had before. So this is interesting, and now for now we are pulling back. So there's no support here on the day chart. So there's more room for downside movements here back to the outbreak level here at $153. But we have more room to the upside if we see the outbreak here at the $195 area. In about 4 minutes the news will come out, and then we will know what the consumer conditions and sentiment will bring us here. So let's just be patient and wait for these news, and just look at some stocks. So for Tesla, still turning to the downside, retesting the $200 area right now. And what else do we have? We have maybe look at European markets for the DAX. So DAX 40, you see the German market. German market is really strong. This is a weekly time frame, but you see we are making higher highs and higher lows. So we are near the high points. Just right now we are 6.3% below the high point. So still some room to the upside, but the European market could catch up to the US markets. And this is interesting to see that with the rising euro against the US dollar, we had more potential here to the upside, and probably will see a retest of the all-time highs back from November 2021. Yeah, Tesla is struggling. Why is it struggling? Because still a lot of short sellers are in the stock. They went out yesterday or were covering with long calls, but they were still sitting on their short positions and waiting for the week to close below 200. Therefore, this important psychological level, this 200 area, is important for the market, and we have to wait for the closing of today if we will close at or below 200. And if you want to see max pain, so maybe some of you are using max pain theory, and we will have a look at the option market for Tesla. So let's see the expiries of today of the options, and there we see all the put strikes in red and the call strikes in green. And here we see that a lot of open puts here at the 200 strikes are open. So if we would close right above or right at the $200 area, then all these puts here with lower strikes will get worthless. So they will expire today. They will be worthless if we close at 200 or above. All these calls here, 210, 215, 220, will be worthless if we close below. So where is the price level? Most of these open calls and puts will expire worthless. This is the max pain price level. And you see, it is at $197.50. So right below the $200 area is the max pain level. And probably we will go to this level just to annoy all the call and put traders, all the retailers who bought calls and puts on Tesla. And therefore, a test of the max pain level today is just, there's a big chance that we will see this one. And it's just about $3 below the current price level. So big probability that we will see this level. Maybe we will see it for the closing and for the expiration of all these options. You can use this for every underlying and also for SPY. And let's see it for SPY. So there we see in about 1 minute we will have the news, but here max pain for SPY is 409 and currently we are at 406. So there would be more upside potential for SPY. Let's go back to the news and see how the news come out in less than a minute. So bring up the news here, bring up the chart of Nasdaq to see the movements, maybe on a 1 minute time frame, and then we can see what will happen here. In about 5 seconds the news will be out, and then we will see what is happening here. 12,340, and it's turning to the downside. Why? Because consumer sentiment was higher than expected, 1.4 points higher, and consumer expectations went lower than expected. This is interesting to see. So the sentiment is higher, but the expectations are lower. Let's see what the market is doing with these numbers. Current conditions a lot higher than expected. Let's see the inflation expectations. Not showing the numbers right now. So market is retesting the lows. So this was the low when the market was open. This should act as a smaller support. And the high point was right below the 12,400. I will live stream 5 more minutes to see if the market is turning into any direction. And then I will close out because my family just went home. 4.2% is the Michigan inflation expectation, and probably because of this number we will see that the market is dipping, because higher inflation means higher probabilities for higher interest. So let's see the expectations if they already shifted. Sometimes it takes some minutes to see the new numbers, so no shift right now. Let's just wait for the next 5 minutes, then we possibly will see a higher number here and a lower number here. So no big news, no big push, but 50 points, almost a little push, could act as a catalyst. And we often see in the first minutes the false direction, and then here we see now the reversal right at the low points. Let's see if the market can turn bullish again, or if we will retest the lows from pre-market of 12,270 points. What time frame am I using? So this now is a 1 minute chart. Normally if I want to day trade, I'm using a 5 minute or 15 minute time frame. For swing trades, it's interesting to look at the daily time frame and 4 hour time frame. But to get the best entries, I most often use 5 minute time frame. So on 1 minute you have a lot of false breakouts, but I like to see the 5 minute time frame, because there, like yesterday, we saw the trend really good. And therefore I like to use the 5 minute time frame. First two 15-minute candles were inverted hammers for QQQ and Q. Yeah, not an inverted hammer, but here we see this doji. So it was closing where it opened. So this just shows the indecision. We often see this when the market opens, a lot of spill to the up and down side, and therefore a doji at the market open. So this is nothing really special. And here an inverted hammer, yes, but you see that there was here also on the lower side of this candle a wick, and therefore it's not a real hammer. But yeah, of course it can be a signal for more pushes to the downside, for a retest of the lows. This would be interesting for me to see. Then I can maybe turn on more to my long trade if I'm expecting that the market will stay above the 20 EMA level here, but we still have some room to retest the previous high points here. This was 12,220, so there is still some room to the downside of about 60 points, and then take on more longs here for a smaller reversal to the upside, maybe 200 points. And yeah, let's see what will happen here. It's just a small position of 2 micro Nasdaq futures I'm long at the moment, not expecting big things, but I will probably take on more long trades here at the supporting area at 12,220 points, or at the 20 EMA level right here. So this one should be important, and on the first attempt we normally should hold at this area. Okay, so 5 minutes after the news, we are still trying to push lower. Let's just wait for the closing of this candle, and then I can close out this live stream. Waller is set to speak today. He's pretty hawkish. Yes, let's see what he has to say, but everyone knows that he is hawkish. So if he is speaking not as hawkish as normal, then it can also be dovish. So let's see what happens here. Here the speech is at 12:30, so still some time, but let's see what will happen here when he is speaking. So I will close out this live stream. Thank you for watching. I wish you a nice trading Friday. If you haven't done so far, please consider subscribing to my channel and be informed every time I go live next time. And of course, give me a thumbs up if you like the information I gave you during my live stream. Thank you. Have a nice trading day and a nice start into your weekend. See you next week, probably on Tuesday for CPI news.